In the year 2028, the International Space Station, a glimmering testament to humanity's exploration of scientific advancement, floated silently in the aura of Earth's orbit. Astronaut Commander Emma Hayes led her eclectic crew through the routine tasks that kept the station operational. As they glided through the narrow metallic corridors, they watched out for exposed cables, experiencing close to zero gravity with the hum of machinery and the rhythmic keystrokes which formed a symphony in the void. Yet, as the sun dipped below Earth's horizon, an unsettling disquiet began to wrap its tendrils around the station. The first signs were subtle: a pen floating where it shouldn't, a wrench missing from its rack. The crew, seasoned astronauts, dismissed these anomalies as quirks of microgravity, the everyday oddities of their extraordinary existence in space. As the hours passed, however, the anomalies evolved into something more insidious feeling. Objects started to move with intent, defying the laws of physics even on the ISS. Pens danced in midair, tools levitated mysteriously, and the general running of the station took on a discordant tone. Vibrations ripped through the metal walls, creating an unsettling atmosphere that clung to the air like an intangible weight of unease. In the central hub, the crew gathered, their expressions portraying a shared sense of eeriness. Commander Hayes, a forthright leader with a steely resolve, initiated a review of the security footage. The recording playback revealed not only the movement of objects, but also distorted shadows that flickered across the frames like phantoms. The air inside the station thickened, and the once pristine environment seemed to warp into odd shapes and dimensions, as if reality itself was starting to unravel. The crew, dressed in their utilitarian spacesuits, floated through the narrow corridors, using their own muscles to propel themselves forward. The haunting hum that originated from the distant reaches of the living quarters intensified, reverberating through the walls like a spectral siren. Flashlights pierced the galactic darkness as the crew, led by Commander Hayes, ventured forward toward the source of the disconcerting sound. The hum, a galactic melody that seemed to defy the laws of known physics, reached a crescendo. Gravity fluctuated unpredictably, and the whispers, soft and haunting, echoed through the metallic passages. Shadows also danced along the walls, assuming grotesque forms that seemed to writhe with a transcending malevolence. Days turned into endless nights as the crew grappled with the encroaching darkness. Sleep-deprived and on edge, they struggled to maintain their sanity in the face of these unknown events of weirdness. Communication with Earth became distorted. The once clear signals to Houston now carried spectral elements that added to the crew's sense of isolation. Dr. Raj Patel, one of the station's head scientists from the ISRO, conducted experiments outside the station while on a spacewalk to discern the source of the disturbances. His findings revealed an otherworldly energy signature emanating from elsewhere in the galaxy. An energy source not native to the Sol system, which raised red flags not just with Dr. Patel, but the entire ISS crew. With further research conducted, Dr. Patel made a startling discovery. The energy source had elements of sentience, which showed signs of thinking for itself. It was an entity of some kind, but exactly what kind was the big question. Determined to confront the entity head-on, the crew formulated a plan to use the station's ion thrusters to maneuver the ISS slightly out of orbit to attempt to break free of this entity's manipulation. As they implemented the plan, the entity retaliated with increased aggression. Shadows coalesced into distorted shapes and forms, and the haunting hum reached a deafening crescendo, threatening to tear the station apart. Amidst the chaos, Lieutenant Dana Compton found herself alone, trying to enter the Quest-Joint airlock after a mission where she tried to repair an external component of the station. Sealing the outer hatch, the entity seized on an opportunity. The airlock door slammed shut, trapping Dana in the cold vacuum of space. Panic surged through her as the airlock cycled, exposing her to the infinite expanse beyond. Her cries for help echoed through the communication system. But with the crew preoccupied with the unfolding nervousness about what to do about the entity, could do nothing. Dana's breaths quickened as her suit's oxygen levels dwindled, and the vastness of Earth loomed under her. With a final desperate plea, she activated the airlock, and with the force of the pressure coming out of the tunnel, she was knocked back, thrusting her into the cosmic abyss as she lost her grip and spun uncontrollably away from the station. As Dana floated helplessly, the entity's influence intensified. It seemed to materialize right in front of her, an amorphous shape that defied description. With a surge of determination, Dana activated her suit's newly added thrusters, propelling herself toward the station, leaving the entity behind her. The crew, alerted by her distress call, rushed to the airlock, where they witnessed the horrifying sight of their comrade drifting into the void of Earth's orbit. Dana's suit radioed her fading voice, recounting the horrors she witnessed in the empty coldness of space. The crew intensified their efforts to banish the entity. The ion thrusters roared to life. The entity fought back with a ferocity that seemed to defy the known world, as the station ferociously tilted on its axis, throwing the crew members from wall to wall. Shadows coalesced into vile, non-human forms, and the haunting vibrations reached a peak of scariness. Then, to add more terrifying events to the ISS crew to deal with, the pressure gauge for the oxygen levels on the station started to drop. It was the most terrifying event any astronaut could witness. With their oxygen depleting, the crew desperately looked around to see how they could save themselves from this fatal demise. Just as hope seemed lost, a brilliant light illuminated the station. A SpaceX rocket from Earth approached, carrying a relief crew and supplies. The new arrivals brought not only the means to replenish the station's dwindling resources, but also a renewed sense of determination. With the combined efforts of the veteran and new crews, the ion thrusters and EM field of the rocket overwhelmed the entity. A blinding burst of energy enveloped the station, expelling the intruder into the cosmic void. As the crew caught their breath, the once tumultuous hum of the station settled into a tranquil silence. The relief crew assisted in retrieving Dana, who miraculously survived her harrowing ordeal in the vacuum of space. The reunited crew members gathered in the central hub, staring out into the vastness beyond the station's windows. The distant stars twinkled as if applauding their victory. The relief crew's rocket, now laden with samples and data from the ISS, prepared for departure. With a sense of closure, the crew watched as the rocket's engines roared to life, carrying the memories of the entity far away from the realm of the ISS, along with the original station crew. The docking gates unclamped, and the ship broke away. rotated its gyro to the correct position, and started to maneuver towards home. As the rocket vanished into the cosmic tapestry toward Earth, new crew commander Kristen Draper and her team shared a moment of reflection. The haunting whispers, the dark noises, and the vibrations that once plagued the sanctuary of the ISS had dissipated. The space station, though scarred by the encounter, stood resilient in the face of pure evil. With a renewed sense of purpose, the new ISS crew resumed their daily routines. The hum of machinery returned to its familiar cadence, and the rhythmic tapping of keyboards echoed through the metallic corridors once more. Beyond the stars, in the vast expanse of the cosmos, the story of the International Space Station continued, marked forever by the indomitable efforts of those who ventured into the unknown. In the wake of their cosmic confrontation, the space station remained shrouded in an eerie calm. Along with the notion that the crew were alone on the station, they knew they had to get going with the routine of scientific experiments and maintenance checks. Yet, beneath the facade of normalcy, an unsettling tension lingered, a residue of the malevolent force that had briefly held the station in its grasp. Jenny, a new ensign, haunted by what she had read about Dana's encounter, spent sleepless nights reviewing data and footage, searching for any remnants of the entity. The hum of the station seemed subdued, as if it held its breath, waiting for an unseen spectre to reappear. The crew felt a collective unease, their camaraderie strained by the lingering shadows of the cosmic abyss. A few days later, as the crew gathered for a routine meeting, a strange occurrence unfolded. The central hub, where they had once sought solace and unity, began to flicker with unnatural lighting. The air thickened, and a low hum resonated through the walls, different from the one the old crew had faced before. Whispers, once soft and distant, grew into audible murmurs, echoing the scientists' deepest fears and anxieties. A dark twist in the tale unfolded as the entity, thought banished into the void, manifested once more within the very heart of the space station. Shadows materialized into grotesque shapes like tendrils taking over the ISS, and the subtle noise reached a dissonant pitch that seemed to penetrate the minds of the crew. Panic set in, and the once unified team became frayed at the edges. In the midst of the chaos, Ensign Jenny Harrington began to exhibit strange behavior. Her eyes, once filled with youthful determination, now held a distant, absent look. She muttered incomprehensible words, as if she were a vessel for the entity's lingering presence. The crew, torn between concern and fear, struggled to comprehend the dark transformation unfolding before them. The entity, cunning and resilient, exploited the fractures within the crew. It manipulated their deepest fears and regrets, projecting nightmarish visions into the once sterile corridors of the space station. The very walls seemed to pulse with a vile energy, absorbing the collective dread of the crew and manifesting it into tangible horrors. Ensign Harrington, burdened by the weight of her job, bore the brunt of the entity's psychological assault. Vivid nightmares invaded her sleep, blurring the lines between reality and her subconscious. Shadows whispered secrets from her past, and the once familiar cadence of the station became a disconcerting symphony of despair. As the crew teetered on the edge of madness, a dark revelation revealed itself. The entity thrived on the fear and discord. It fed on the fractured bonds between them growing stronger with each moment of desperation. The once unified team, now fragmented and suspicious, faced an existential threat from within. In a desperate bid to regain control, Jenny gathered some of her crewmates for an emergency meeting. The central hub, flickering with terror-filled lights, served as the backdrop for a confrontation against the insidious force that had infiltrated their orbital home. Jenny, caught in the grip of the entity, vacillated between moments of lucidity and eerie detachment. With the sanity of the crew beginning to come apart, the crew hesitated to trust one another. Jenny, torn between her loyalty to the crew and friends and the need to confront the entity, faced an impossible choice. The station's darkened corridors echoed with the whispers of uncertainty, and the cosmic hum intensified, now a cacophony of discordant notes. As Jenny grappled with the weight of what to do next, her eyes started to glow deep red. She terrifyingly levitated about 10 inches off the anti-grav flooring, seemingly being an unwitting conduit for the entity's resurgence. She uttered a cryptic message.
In the void, where shadows rule, truth and terror intertwine, trust not what you see, for reality itself may betray you.
With those haunting words, Jenny collapsed, the entity relinquishing its hold on her. The central hub, now eerily silent, awaited the crew's next move. The entity, having fed on their fears, seemed to anticipate their every move. A dangerous puppeteer pulling the strings from the cosmic shadows. As the crew stood on the precipice of their darkest hour, uncertain of who among them harbored the entity's influence, a realization dawned. To defeat the malevolent force, they first must confront the darkness within themselves. The once happy team, now fractured and distrustful, faced a daunting task: to rebuild the bonds that had been torn asunder and to vanquish the entity that thrived on the team members' collective fearfulness. The space station, once a symbol of human scientific cooperation and exploration, stood on the brink of an abyss. The cosmic hum, once a soothing melody, now resonated with the discordant notes of uncertainty. As the crew grappled with their inner demons, the shadows within the metallic corridors seemed to writhe with anticipation, a manifestation of the entity's insidious influence. The story of the International Space Station, initially a tale of triumph against the unbelievable, had taken a dark turn. The crew, once together in their pursuit of discovery, now faced a formidable adversary that lurked not just in the cosmic void, but within the deepest recesses of their own minds. As they confronted the twisted reflections of their fears and regrets, the true nature of the entity's malevolence unfurled, revealing a cosmic horror that sought not only to haunt the station, but to consume the very essence of humanity. The crew were to provide the entity with their essence and life force, but through forced submission, as it enveloped one crew member at a time by reaching its tendrils over them and draining them of who they were. Then, completely out of the blue, an alarm went off. Ensign Jenny Harrington had opened the airlock. She wasn't suited, but it looked like she wanted outside. But why? Surely it would kill her. But as we speak, the craziness we all feared happened. Jenny, still being manipulated by the entity, pushed herself out of the airlock, and she floated away from the station at a sheer velocity not able to be recorded on scanners. But in other words, she spaced herself But why would she do this suicidal act? Jenny seemed to claw for air and gasp as the realization of what she had done became real. But there was nothing anyone could do. She was gone. The vacuum of space had claimed another victim. So, what will happen to Ensign Jenny Harrington? Will Commander Kristen Draper get back control of the ISS? And will the dark, sinister entity take more victims? Well, join us for part 2, coming soon, where we'll find out the answers to these questions and a lot more along with it. Hey horror fans, thanks for joining for a new sci-fi horror story. This narrative work, called The Haunting of the ISS, was an original story with a nice cliffhanger added at the end. Because you gotta add that two-parter story arc, right? Please like this video to help YouTube know just how much you dig our sci-fi horror content. Subscribe to the channel if you think we're deserving, and if you want to stay notified, hit the bell for all notifications. As previously mentioned, if you have some quality sci-fi short stories you'd like to be read out by me on the channel, send them to my email, which you'll find in this video's description, including how you wish to be credited, and I'll get around to reading them as soon as possible. Thanks again, and I'll catch you all very soon for another round of sci-fi horror.